fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going around the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up to
Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get full!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, here we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Welcome to the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge here at Autodromo National Monza, or Monza, as most of us know it. It's the TCR cars, and this should be a giraffe train around this 5.79 kilometer circuit, the long straights before Parabolica and after the final corner into turn 1. Should be a good race. It's on the SimSpeed TV. My name's Ryan Jones, and alongside me tonight, Jay Kennedy. Jay, everyone's trying to beat Tim Grevin, #1 driver once again today. What's a race where giraffes going to be paramount going to throw up today?
Yeah, hello everyone. It's going to be a really cool race. We haven't really seen huge drafting tracks other than the race we had at Road America, which threw up some massive curveballs, and we saw drivers come all the way through the field and work their way back up to the front from the rear of the field. So draft is going to play a huge key in these cars. As we can see, 30-minute race, so no pit stops once again. And the track is incredibly cool. That is going to be a huge, huge factor in this race. Not only for the race, but in qualifying, which is underway right now. Getting heat into the tyres is hard enough as it is. Getting heat into the tyres when the track is so cold at only 23 degrees Celsius. That second lap is going to be so key, and getting heat to cycle into the tyres at the right time is going to be a really big factor in how this race plays out, or how this qualifying plays out even.
Or perhaps both even, Jay, because of course they're going to be starting on pretty cold tyres as well for the race, and of course new tyre model for these machines as well, being introduced to the iRacing service very lately, just before the season in fact, which means something these drivers have had 6 or 7 weeks now to get used to, but something that is definitely a talent and a skill that they're going to have to work on and develop over the coming weeks and into future seasons. Qualifying though, as you mentioned, underway. We've got about 5 or 2 minutes left, sorry, of the session. Currently up top is Tim Grevin. Only man into the 2 minutes, 2-minute 0.7. Next closest, Pablo Vicent, a 2-minute 1.4. So big margin there for Grevin, about 7/10 of a second. Pretty close in behind Vicente as Preston slots into third. And then we've got Kaneko, Matt Morris, Rob Bowden, and Rafa Serna just in behind. We're watching Tim Grevin now into the first chicane. And through the first chicane, he goes then into the first 2 Lesmos. Important to get the run through here pretty nicely, because if you come off the second Lesmo awkwardly, you're going to hurt yourself all the way down through and to Ascari, because what is there, 3 long straights on this track. There's 3 corners that you cannot afford to screw up the exit on.
Yeah, exactly. You want to make sure that you absolutely nail all of these corners, and as we've seen, such a long lap time, 2-minute lap time, means that these drivers have it at an even higher level now, so these laps mean even more around such a huge circuit. Have a look at that for Godoracina. Only 0.03 of a second behind Grevin. Grevin's going to cross the line with a fair bit of time left, but there's some of these drivers that are going to be really close on not getting a lap time. You've just seen McLeod cross the line. He won't get a second lap in. Chris Barnes won't get his... Actually, he's just finished his second lap. There's a few other drivers that won't even get 2 runs at it, which is really important. And you'll see here the time difference for Grevin on this second lap. There'll be a huge drop-off in time here. This second lap will be really quick in comparison. We could see him into the 159s. No, I think it's a couple of tenths in the end, but that's enough to give him a 2.5 tenth margin.
Just enough indeed, and top speed into a Ascari is about 220 kilometers an hour, so not the fastest car you'll ever take around this track as well, which means that that giraffe, that slipstream is going to be very important. And I might not want to be the guy starting on pole position. Because even down into turn 1, you might find yourself starting to fall victim to the slipstream fest. Down into that first braking zone, Corey Preston, currently at 201.5. He finds 3/10 in the second lap, moves into the top 5, 5th place for him. Just ahead of Rob Bowden, we have about 20 seconds left. Daniel Pinella looks like he's not going to make a lap. It looks like he's Godaracina can't improve, and yeah, those guys are not going to finish their lap. Just 10 seconds to go. B's going to come across the line, and
Good
he
lap.
will do a fantastic lap. Yes, he now moves up ahead of Preston and into that 5th place spot. And I think that is our qualifying done here today for TCR. Let's have a look at how they're going to line up. Tim Greven's on pole position by 0.2 of a second over David Godaracina. Takira Kaneko from 3rd place with Pablo Vicent outside row 2. Inigo B on 5th, ahead of Corey Preston, and then Rob Bowden, Matt Morris on that 4th row of the grid.
Now we've got Rafa Cerna next with Chris Barnes in 5th position. Nathan Tregarthen and Josh Perween on the 6th row. Ashley Ruskin and Mitchell McLeod on row 7 with Ruben Martin, Alex Court on row 8. We go to row 9, Daniel Pinella, Derek Issa and Jota Perez. Issa and Perez did not get a lap time in. Very, very close the whole way through. I mean, 2.8 seconds back to the back of the field, but those first few cars actually fairly close, especially that midfield too. You look from 9th to 14th is half a second, so those guys are going to be very, very close, and that draft is going to play such a huge factor in this race.
We keep talking about how much of a factor it's going to play. We're going to look like right silly buggers if it doesn't. But for all intents and purposes, it really should. But I guess we'll find out in a few moments' time. We've got a rolling starter course for this series, and they line up on the run towards the Sky, so don't have to complete the full almost 5.8 kilometers of the track, only about 2 or so kilometers, which means not too long to prepare, but it's certainly not the shortest run we see for the formation lap. 201 flat for 3rd place, Kaneko 201 flat for 4th, and it's 3/10 back to 7th place. So those guys are really close. Looks like there's sort of 2 classes at the moment. Tim Greven and Godaracina front row, and very much clear of 3rd, and then very tight from there on back. In terms of the strategy for this race, absolutely none whatsoever. Go as hard as you can, and hopefully finish the race, because as we all know, to finish first. First you must finish. The most famous quote, I would say, in motorsport. In sport in general, wouldn't you say,
I think
Jay?
it's a forgotten one too in motorsport. There's so many drivers out there that honestly forget about to finish first. First you must finish, and just try and throw it in there unnecessarily so early. Tim Greven, have a look at how aggressive these guys are on tyres. We've talked about it already, and we've seen it in previous races in this series, that tyres are such a huge factor. Getting heat into them is so difficult with the new tyre model. So they're so aggressive on these shorter runs up to the green flag to get these the heat cycling through. So we'll see how it plays out. And just hearing as well from Tim Greven that he didn't want to be on pole, but he can't really change that now. He's stuck on pole, and we'll try and lead this field for what will be around about 15 laps of racing tonight, which should be a very, very intense race.
Well, I said you might not want to be on pole position. Turns out maybe not, because of course with rolling start, they started about 90 kilometers an hour already, which means the guys like who's in 3rd, Kaneko, could get a very good jump here on Tim Greven as the pace car dives down. Let's see who's going to be first to arrive down at turn number 1. Tim Greven jumps on the throttle, and immediately Godaracina tucks into his draft. Top 3 single file, all drafting down the main straight. Pablo Vicen in 4th, and then side by side for the first time, Corey Preston and Ingo Bay. And it looks like it's all going to remain the same down into turn number 1. Greven from Godaracina, and then look at this, around the outside, trying is Vicent, and almost got the inside of turn number 2, but can't get the drive off. Corey Preston moves up into 5th ahead of Inigo Bay. Rest of the field cleanly through the first chicane.
Mitchell McLeod plus 3 spots in the first corner. He's just actually had to give up some time, so I'm wondering if he's got a slow down there. He's checking up, and they're 3 wide just behind him too. Alex Court, Nathan Tregarthen, and Jota Perez. Perez is now up 4 spots. He started last, didn't put in a qualifying lap, but Greven look at the gap that he's already pulled here. He's already out to nearly a full second lead. If you can get that out to 2 seconds on this lap, he's going to have such a huge advantage. As Corey Preston slows up on the inside, he's had a slowdown penalty as well for cutting the chicane. So he's got to be a little bit more careful about that, especially on the first lap. We know how painful that is. Preston has lost 5 spots just from that one little whoopsie there. And Derek Issa up the inside on Ashley Ruskin. Will he be able to get the spot side by side through Lesmo 2? And they're going to continue on. Have a look at Jota Perez there, ready to take this spot.
I don't think they can quite go 3 wide and it won't work into a Ascari, that's for sure. But I'll tell you what, he's looking for somewhere to go, isn't he? Isn't Jota Perez? He's going to opt to push Derek Issa, who's on the outside for Ascari. They'll go side by side, but Issa decides better of it this time by as Ruskin using all the track through Ascari. And those slowdowns at Monza are quite easy to get through the 2 chicanes. There's a look at 3rd place, Kaneko. He's having to go defensive to Pablo Vicente. Or Vicente, I don't quite know how to pronounce your name there, sorry mate, but I'm going to go with Vicente, and he goes by easily. I think, in fact, Kaneko let him go through knowing he's going to have this slipstream down the main straight, as he is getting a very good run out of Parabolica, and will be right up in behind him. Matt Morris isn't too far away from these guys. And there's Rob Bowden, who's lost a spot on this opening lap as we complete the first lap, and it's a 4/10 of a second advantage for Tim Grevin out front.
Yep, and it was out to 1.4 seconds halfway through that lap, and the draft has come straight back in, and he's lost all of that advantage, so he's going to have to do it all again. Have a look in the background there. Kaneko just absolutely launched off the curb, and now Matt Morris is going to get a spot. Rob Bowden tried to get in there too, and Kaneko has just lost all of his momentum, lost all of his spots. He's back to 10th. He's gone from 5th to 10th in turn 1.
Don't know if he if Matt Morris made contact with him in the middle of the corner. Probably get a replay up of that one, because if not, it was certainly very close between them into turn 1, and there was a bit of contact between Morris and Kaneko. So unfortunate there for the number 16 driver. He'll have to work his way back through the field. Luckily for him, everyone still very much bunched up in front of him. Pretty much a train of cars from what is now 5th place Matt Morris, or 4th place even Matt Morris, all the way down to Kaneko himself now, back in 12th place.
And there was contact between Enio Bayer and Kaneko. So Kaneko now back in 11th, and Bayer has taken that 5th position away. So Matt Morris up into 4th. That's a great job from him. Chris Barnes as well, also looking to make moves, as he's just had Corey Preston come back through. But Chris Barnes will be trying to get his way forward. He's already up a spot. Derek Issa and Jota Perez, our 2 drivers that didn't put in lap times in qualifying, are already up into 12th and 13th. They're already up plus 6 spots so far. Tim Grevin got it out to 1.5 seconds again. It's back down to 4/10, and he could lose the lead down the front straight.
He could, if there is a great run out of Parabolica for David Goldoracina. I like that name. It's nice and easy, rolls off the tongue, and sounds nice to say. But he's not looking for that draft, is he, Jay? Look at that, driving down the middle of the track. Tim Grevin on the very left-hand side. Goldoracina happy to sit in behind him right now.
Just seen Josh Perween's driven into the pit, so he's had some sort of penalty. And yeah, I think Goldoracina just happy to stay in 2nd position now. Wants to try and force Tim Grevin into a mistake, hoping that he can make a mistake. But he has driven very, very well. As I'm just seeing in the background, there's an incident for Matt Morris. So we'll try and pick that up and see what's happened there, and we'll try and get a modem simulation replay as he rejoins side by side with the 18 car. That's Nathan Tregarthen. So he's gone all the way from 4th back into effectively last spot. Only Josh Perween behind him.
I just had a look at the incident for Matt Morris. Lost it all by himself through that first corner on the curb. He's now riding behind Tregarthen, who's side by side with Daniel Pinella into the first chicane. Can't quite get the move done. Swipes across the rear bumper of Pinella's car. As we look back further up the field, some fantastic little battles. No one can get away from anyone as a result of this slipstream. 5th place, 7th place, Rafa Cerna. He's got Corey Preston riding behind him. Preston has lost 2 spots so far as a result of that mistake and the slowdown he got on the first lap. So he's trying to make progress back to the field. He's already gained a couple spots since then, almost looking up the inside into Ascari, but there was never really a gap there.
So good job from Rob Bowden. Started in 7th, but he's up into 5th and now starting to close in on Inigo Bayer. So he's doing a really good job.
Preston.
Preston's so aggressive at the moment, though. He's really trying to make moves, but not easy to do around this circuit, as we've seen many, many times before. But there he goes up the inside through Parabolica, and the only issue with that is if you get the move done too early, the driver behind will slingshot back past you with that momentum, especially with the draft around this circuit, as we just see now. He's up into 6th once again. Remember, he started in 6th position, gained a spot on that first lap, dropped all the way back. Now got himself back up into his starting spot, but he might lose that spot again.
He might, but I think he's going to be just about clear enough into the first chicaners. Oh, in front of him, very close to touching, were Rob Bowden, who has to shortcut the first chicane, and Inio B through there, and that held both of them up quite a bit. It looks like Rob Bowden just missed his brake marker by a substantial margin, almost went straight into the back of the car in front of him. And he has copped a slowdown as a result, unsurprisingly. Now Preston is going to draw a level and alongside and ahead into the first chicane. So he moves up 2 spots in about 3 corners there for Preston. He'll be happy with that. Now he has to look forward and try and press on, because he has about a second or a second and a half to Inio B.
Yeah, Bayer now trying to get this move done and get up another spot, so we'll see if he can do that. Sorry, Rafa Serna, I should say. Bayer is not matching pace. I must say, last lap, Corey Preston was the fastest driver out on track, so we know that Preston's got pace. Last lap was faster than Tim Greven, so by about 2/10, actually has set what would have been the fastest lap of the race if he didn't get a 1x off-track penalty. So he's very, very quick at the moment. As we were on board with Serna, he just had a massive slide just then. So he needs to be a little bit more careful and try and make sure that he maintains a grip, because overheating the tyres this early in the race could spell trouble with about 5 or 6 minutes to go.
Certainly could. This is a close little battle now for 6th place, led by Preston, Bowden, Serna, Barnes, Kaneko. Let's not forget about him. We saw his spin earlier on. He's making his way back through the field already on the back of these guys, and he's going to see in front of him, surely in a moment, side by side, Chris Barnes and Rafa Serna, because Barnes is all up in his grill behind him, and now alongside him down the main straight, heading towards turn number 1. He's going to have to be late on the brakes, but not as late as Rafa Serna was on the outside. Great judgment from Serna to hold him off. Barnes will look for the crossover through the chicane. Not a fantastic exit for the 13 car. That leaves him vulnerable and leaves him open to Barnes attacking from behind. Oh, there's not quite room at the 3rd corner, but there is now. Serna decides to leave him some room, go the defensive route for the first chicane. He's fending him off quite hard, and he's doing a great job of it so far. He's got the right line for this next set of corners, and again going to be able to hold him off. And this has allowed Kaneko to close right up onto the bumper now of Chris Barnes, as they both use the gravel on the exit of turn number 5.
Last lap by Tim Greven, 2:06, 2:07 for Goldracina. Corey Preston wasn't able to match them that time. Ashley Ruskin back in the field in 12th position is the next fastest driver at the moment, along with Yoda Perez. So those guys back in the field a little bit, actually Derek Issa as well. Those guys in 10th, 11th and 12th, who are a little bit further back, they're starting to close in because their pace is really good. You can see them in the back of this train now, so they're looking really strong. Rob Bowden's almost becoming a little bit of a cork in the bottle here, so he might start to cause a little bit of trouble here. Because Preston, have a look at the gap that he's pulled already now, and he's right on the tail of Inio Bayer. So Preston looking strong, Bowden looking vulnerable, and the rest of the field behind looking very, very quick too.
Yeah, they certainly are. Further back you go, the more people you get a distant effect of the draft from as well, which improves your time just a bit for every little car in front of you down the 2 or 3 main big straights we have. Look at this now for Corey Preston. He's got a great run out of Parabolica. Going to go to the inside. It didn't work. A clap go for Rafa Serna's combatant. It looks like this time it could work for Preston, because he's got half a car length ahead of Inio Bayer already, and clears him in the braking zone, moves across in front of him, dancing that car around in the braking zone, gets the move done. He moves up into 4th place. It's behind them side by side of Rafa Serna. Bit of contact with Chris Barnes, who moves up ahead of him, and now Rafa Serna is under pressure from Takeru Kaneko into turn 3. Behind him, Derek Izza and Jota Perez as well, looking to follow through that car of Kaneko, who loses out through turn 3. Who's going to be the last of the late breakers into the second chicane? Rafa Serna just fending off Kaneko. Great bit of racing and driving from him to just cover off his lines. There was a sea of cars behind him and a car in front, and he's managed to hold his position there.
And you can see that Barnes is really starting to frustrate these guys. He's got pace, but just not quite enough pace. Just Chris Barnes. Bowden has broken away a little bit. So we thought that Rob Bowden was going to be the cork in the bottle. It might actually be Chris Barnes here now, because that gap after that little bit of fighting just in the background, saw Mitchell McLeod and Alex Court have a little bit of a moment. Continue on, but Bowden now's got 2-second advantage over Chris Barnes. So this could turn into a very, very angry fight, as we're nearly halfway through this race already. It is flying by, but it is thoroughly entertaining. I'm loving the battles going on.
It's been a great race. I was going to say Chris Barnes, maybe not. He just passed Rafa Serna, so we'd see whether he could open up the gap. But judging by what we're seeing on screen, that's not going to happen, because by goes Rafa Serna once again, moving himself back up into 7th place. When he crosses the line, it'd be like he never left it. He'd be scored in 7th place again, as behind, trying to follow him through, was David Issa, and almost making contact with Chris Barnes. He's going to have the draft off of the 13 down this main straight, which means Barnes will probably lose out this spot here. But on the outside, he may be able to make something work if he hangs there for turn 1. What about Kaneko? Can he make it 3 wide?
Oh, no.
Is Jota Perez going to make it 3 wide? Kaneko backs out of it. Barnes goes late on the brakes. Kaneko's even late on the brakes as well. He hits Barnes through turn 1, gives him a hip check. They go side by side through 2, and that allows Rafa Serna to open up about an 8 or 9 car length advantage in just 2 sequences of corners. Barnes now tucks in behind Kaneko, and just in behind now and closing is Ashley Ruskin as well.
There was another incident at the same time as that too. Corey Preston and Neo Bayer actually had a little incident. So Bayer may have actually run off the circuit.
No!
Oh no.
And in live pictures too, Kaneko and Barnes have come together in a big way on the approach to the first chicane. One spear to the right, one spear to the left. Here we go, he got onto the grass with Chris Barnes, and you can't stop a car on the grass. Contact with Kaneko, into the wall goes Bay, and across the curbs, and across the curbs go Kaneko, and unfortunate for both those drivers, and for the second time today, Kaneko's going to have to come back through the field just over the halfway point of this race, and that was an unfortunate end to that battle.
Definitely was, because it was heating up to be a really interesting fight, wasn't it, between all of those cars. Chris Barnes, just 2 wheels on the grass, doesn't want to brake on the grass. We know that. Doesn't matter what car it is, unless it's a
rally car?
Rallycross car, and even then they still don't really brake that well when they're on the grass. If they've got 2 wheels on the tarmac and 2 on the grass, they don't like it too much. But that was unfortunate. I must say, the battle up the front, the 3rd place car of Vicente is looking like he's vulnerable here. He's dropped a huge margin over the last few laps to those lead 2 drivers. Preston is back in for a podium contention now, and Bay is just happy sitting back watching. So these few at the front are getting rather interesting. I don't think there'll be a move here, but in the next lap or so, as we get to the halfway point right now, the next lap or 2, this could be a really interesting fight here for 3rd, 4th and 5th as we go back to
the
that
lead
battle. Oh, okay, the lead, yeah, change it for the lead almost.
Side by side, Tim Grevin and David Goldaracina through turn 3, through on the inside goes Goldaracina. Grevin was slow. I'm going back to have a look whether he got a slow down. Very possible that he got a slow down on the inside at turn 1, and that has given the lead up to Goldaracina. But you said you heard Grevin at the start of the race, he didn't want to be on pole position. Well, if I use that same logic and apply it to the end of the race, maybe he doesn't even want to be in the lead of the race heading into the final lap. So maybe that's a blessing in disguise for Grevin if it was a slowdown, and allows him to put himself in behind Goldaracina and able to utilise a draft. I dare say we're probably going to see a last lap pass for the lead, no matter which driver it is out front at the beginning of that final lap.
Yeah, 100%. You don't want to be in the lead coming through here now. I think this is the spot where you want to be the 2nd place car. Exactly where Grevin is now. I reckon he would almost be setting up where he's going to position the car on that last lap. Try and work out where he wants the car to be to steal the lead away coming through Parabolica. So We'll see if he tries to come back through here and take the lead before the finish line. It would be interesting to see. In the background, while we were watching this little battle, Corey Preston did get through on Vicente. So Preston now up into third, and he still looks really quick. So we could see Preston get onto the back of this train if these guys continue to change position a little bit.
Yeah, it's certainly possible. What is he? Just about saw him entering the shot there through Parabolica. You can see him there. That's the gap, and it's probably going to close down over the next few laps. But if these two keep doing this, it won't, because Tim Greven's pushing Goldoracina down the main straight. He's already telling Goldoracina, hey, there you go, mate. I'm going to give you some extra help down the main straight. I'll both go a bit faster. But what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to overtake you.
No, he's just setting up and trying to work out. Oh, no! It's been contact, and around goes Jota Perez. No, sorry, it's Derek Issa. There's contact there between he and Perez in that 4 car, the yellow car. We'll get a replay of it in just a moment, but that's absolutely checked up that midfield pack. And that's unfortunate. Also seeing Chris Barnes has driven into the pits. He is day done as well.
It seemed that he broke a bit earlier than Rafa Serna and Jota Perez were expecting. You can see there that it looks like Perez almost wasn't even on the brakes. And maybe he was so tucked up, or he was so tucked up to the back of Izza that he just couldn't react where he was braking. And that's just unfortunate there for Derek Izza. Gets rotated into the fence. He'll have some damage on that one too. That car goes skating back across the track there through the middle of the first chicane. The grass in the infield there. So that's another incident in this race. And out front, hoping to have no incidents, are David Goldoracina, Tim Greven as well.
Here we go.
And yeah, here we go. Greven looking to the outside, Goldoracina looking to cover him off. There's still 12 minutes left. I don't think he wants to have a look really. But I'm looking at the lap times. Last time by 3/10 quicker for Corey Preston compared to Goldoracina. And of course, Greven made that mistake, so he's about a second quicker than him. We'll see what it is this time by, but I think the gap has come down once again. Greven's got a great run here. He could go by him. And Goldoracina, I think, as playing some games now with Tim Greven, he's lifted off a throttle, tucked back in behind Greven. And these two are trying to sort themselves out to a point where they don't lead at the wrong time in this race. They want to be second place is the best place to be, almost like a super speedway race in NASCAR racing. You don't want to lead that final lap more times than not. But what this is doing is it's going to allow Corey Preston and co to close right back up, as again Tim Greven, he's on the brakes. He's letting him go back by as his paddles behind as well. And Goldoracina goes back into the lead of the race. And they can't keep playing silly buggers for too much longer, because the more they do this, the more they keep lifting off, letting each other go by, the higher the risk of Corey Preston catching, Pablo Vicente, Inigo Bea as well, Bea behind him in 6th place. So you can understand where they're coming from here, Jay, but at the same time, it is a motor race, or a simulated motor race, and you don't want to give up too much track position here and risk 3rd place catching.
Well, they've lost a second on this lap, essentially, so they really do need to be careful. Preston is now only 3.6 seconds off the lead of the race. 3.3 seconds now, actually. It's closed even further. It's a little bit of a mistake there from Goldoracina on coming through there, and Tim Greven almost made contact. And I'm wondering, too, if Greven was trying to set up and work out how to get that move done out of Parabolica on the last lap. Goldoracina's like, I'm not letting you know how much momentum you're going to get, and checked up a little bit so that Greven didn't know if that move would actually work on that last lap. So I think there's some really interesting games going on. A little bit of braking through the mid-corner there from Goldoracina as well, not just to gain momentum, but to also force Greven to check up a little bit too. So this is a really good fight. I'm interested to see how this plays out.
2:01.6 and a 2:01.6 for Goldoracina, Tim Greven, Corey Preston, a 2:07. 9/10 of a second, the advantage to the man in 3rd place, chasing down the race leaders as side by side. Pablo Vicente loses out to Bea, and they switch positions before they reach turn 1. They will be seeing the changes happening up front as well, so they know what's on the cards here. as I think that time round, once again, Goldaracina lifted out of that final corner and allowed Greven to go around him on the main straight. And now Greven's opened up a gap of about 3 or 4 car lengths, which I dare say isn't going to sit there for too long. Goldaracina is going to close up very quickly once they get towards the run to Ascari through the 2 Lesmos. But if Greven can nail the next lap or so, he could open up a gap big enough to actually pull away from Goldaracina.
Well, yeah, I'm interested to see whether he's got the pace just to break away, but we saw how much that draft drags everyone back in. So I'm wondering if Greven actually, now that he's in the lead, will worry about Preston. I reckon he's seen that gap that Preston's pulling and was closing in. He got it down to 2.7 not that long ago. So Greven is now trying to get a bit of pace happening at the front and force Goldaracina to make a move back. So this is going to be an interesting fight. Really, there's 5 cars or 6 cars that could win this race now with how those guys at the front have been fighting and battling. So this is going to be a really interesting finale to this race.
Well, Rob Bowden was the quickest driver of the top 6 when they crossed the line last time by. So certainly 6 cars could potentially win this race yet. Probably a bit too far-fetched to say Jota Perez in 7th, who's excursioning through the grass, could get it done as well. But you never know, though, as through Parabolica they go once more. Just under 8 minutes left on the clock when they cross the line, which means we've got about 4 laps of racing to come. The gap at the line between the race leaders, just about half a second for Greven over Goldaracina. That's enough for the draft to come into effect. Goldaracina can close up as soon as it wants to. We saw him not driving into his draft down the first part of the main straight. By the time he got to turn 1, he was tucked firmly up into that draft. He's just managing the gap. Let's get a replay up on screen from Motor Simulation. This is through Parabolica. Rafa Serna gets told to get out of the way, goes into the fence on stage left, and that looked a bit awkward there for Rafa Serna and the other party involved. So Serna has been the next victim in the race, and the battles that have unfolded throughout today have left a couple drivers where it was at war wounds, as Pablo Vicente and Bayer's
just lost 2 spots there. So Vicente and Bowden straight through. That's a great move from Bowden, just taking advantage of Vicente making the move. Bayer left the broom thinking that it was coming, and then all of a sudden, bang, Bowden straight through. Great move. Well done by him. So Bowden now, as you said before, was the fastest driver out of that top 6 the previous lap. That lap there he was the second fastest. Tim Greven starting to apply pressure behind. Matt Morris is the fastest driver out on track, and he isn't too far off doing a 1 minute 59. We could see a 1:59 in these last 3 and a bit laps. I'm intrigued to see if we will. Corey Preston, though, still has the fastest lap of the race at 2 minute 0.1.
That was a bad sequence of corners there for Inio Bayer, and it's getting worse for him as well because he's falling a long way off the 2 drivers in front of him. Look at this, through Ascari, almost pushing each other. Kaneko, McLeod, and Alex Court. Kaneko's actually come up 2 spots on this lap. We've passed both these drivers. And now Alex Court and Mitchell McLeod, they're pretty much 3 wide down into Parabolica. McLeod in the middle, Court on the inside. And there's all contact. And for the 3rd time today, Kaneko, I thought he was going to get spun around. He managed to save it that time. And McLeod moved to the left in reaction to Court, and unfortunately clips Kaneko. Didn't really need to. There was plenty of room for 3 of them to go through that corner. As up front, Rob Bowden moves now up into 4th place ahead of Pablo Vicente. Ashley Ruskin's trying to make some moves as well for 6th place, and Jota Perez in 7th. And then there's battle Court on the inside of McLeod, so he's picked up 2 spots in 2 corners there. And Kaneko is going to have to pass them once again. Gives a shot to the back of Mitchell McLeod through turn 2, showing his displeasure. Or maybe he's just that much quicker than these guys.
Well, we know he's got pace because he's qualified up the front. He's qualified in 3rd. He's found himself back in 13th, pretty much through no fault of his own as well. So he's had a bit of a shocker. Tim Greven, once again, as we saw at the very, very start of this race, is starting to try and push that gap out at the front. Last lap by, he did his 2nd fastest lap of the race, 2 minute 4, once again. And he's now got that gap out to 0.8 of a second as Kaneko and Court continue their fight. They've been battling for a few corners. McLeod ended up in the middle of this fight after a mistake because McLeod was in 11th. Dropped back. He's now back into 11th again. And Court and Kaneko still pushing each other, still fighting. I think this might get a little bit
8.
messy here. Oh, yeah.
Look at Ruskin, Izza, and Matt Morris bump drafting down into Ascari. Morris on the outside sweeps around the front end of Ashley Ruskin's car and moves up 1 spot. But Ruskin's going to be back in his draft for the next sequence of corners as behind. Alex Court has found the wall. And I dare say with how we saw them battling, there would have been contact. Let's get the replay up on screen. There's McLeod in behind him, into Ascari. McLeod on the outside, Court on the inside. There's a car's width there, and McLeod has turned him around into Ascari. And that was actually Kaneko, not McLeod. And a misjudgment there from Kaneko, and turned in probably a bit too early from the outside line, and Court, unfortunately, the victim there. Here's the onboard shot. You can see how the gap closes to a car, but perfectly fine, and then he just turns left.
He just turned left. I think that's
Yeah.
was almost, you could almost call that intentional. Just the way that the car drifted across under brakes, that was unnatural. So yeah, something not right there. And I'm just seeing too, Ashley Ruskin, who we saw in that battle, is around. We'll get a replay of that too.
And he's going to rejoin alongside Kaneko. Almost turned him too. And here we go. Ashley Ruskin has lost it all by himself through turn 1. No, he hasn't. There was contact. I was watching the car in front. There was contact. Car on the outside through the first
Derek
corner.
Issa was.
Yeah, Derek Issa is unfortunately spun himself off to the inside for Ashley Ruskin there. I thought the car in front was Ruskin. That car in front looked a bit sideways coming through the corner.
Shout out to Jota Perez, currently driver of the day for sure. He and Rob Bowden have been the best two for me in the field. Jota Perez didn't qualify, started last. He's plus 12. Currently finds himself in 7th. Unlikely he'll gain another spot. He's under pressure from Matt Morris at the moment, but it's a fantastic drive either way at the moment.
Yeah, it certainly has been, and he's kept his nose clean in a race where a lot of drivers have failed to do such a seemingly simple thing. And now he's going to have Matt Morris for company down towards Parabolica. 2 laps to go. Oh, look at this. Further up, though, Rob Bowden, Pablo Vicente, and Inio Bayer are going side by side. Morris is pushing Perez. There's that battle. Preston as well, just in front of these guys. We're on the final lap.
Dropped back.
And Preston has dropped back. Tim Griffin has about a 4-second advantage.
Yeah, something's happened to Godaracina as well. So Godaracina didn't get a lap time in on that previous lap. Preston's also made a mistake. This is not going to end well. You can just tell Bowden could steal a podium. Remember we said before that he was doing a great job. Oh, there's contact between Vicente. Good save though from Rob Bowden.
Fantastic save, and the final lap shenanigans begin. I was perplexed by the 4-second advantage for Tim Grevin, but that's pretty much wrapped up this race for him. Godaracina in no man's land in 2nd. 3rd place is Preston. And now look at this. Pablo Vicente and Inio Bayer for 4th place are going to go side by side into the 2nd chicane. Bayer on the inside. Last of the late breakers for him, but not late enough because holding it tough around the outside. Inside for the 2nd part. More contact made. And now Rob Bowden wants to find a way through as well. And they're going to be side by side into the 2 Lesmos. They sort themselves out. And it's Inio Bayer who is now the meat in the sandwich with Vicente in front of him and Bowden behind. It looks like the top 3 spots are all wrapped up now as Godaracina, he's slow on the run to Ascari.
He's got an issue.
He has an issue with that machine. And his race looks to be done. And that is a big mystery there. What's happened for Godaracina? He's pulling off and he's going to retire to that car. So the man who looked like he was set to challenge for the race win for so much of this race is going to end up with a big DNF in today's events. Big shame for him. There's still a big train of cars who are now fighting for 3rd place, actually. The final podium spot, but out of the final corner, Tim Grevin's going to come home and win. Corey Preston will take 2nd place. There's a big battle happening for the final podium spot. Pablo Vicente trying to get a run through Parabolica and stay ahead of Inio Bayer. Rob Bowden can't find anything to fight for these guys. And it's going to be Corey Preston who comes home in 2nd place ahead of Pablo Vicente, who takes home the final podium spot. Inio Bayer home in 4th. And Rob Bowden running out the top 5 Here was Matt Morris, and is that Jota Perez into the final corner? What's going on here?
Oh, that was
Contact!
messy.
And Morris spears off into the wall, not the first car we've seen of that wall today. And some more intriguing racing to finish off this race. It was Derek Izza going to his outside, or behind them in fact, watching this battle unfold.
Oh,
And
that
he
was
got
deep.
into the back of Matt Morris. Izza went in way too deep, collected the rear end of Morris's car, and unfortunately Jota Perez, who kept his nose clean all race long, involved in an incident on the final corner. They finished in 7th place. But that's everyone across the line, Jay. Let's go through the final unofficial results from Monza today. Tim Greven took the win in the end by an astonishing 11.3 seconds. It looked like it was going to be so much closer than that right up until the final couple of laps, and the gap out front just catapulted out for some reason. We can't quite tell you, some sort of mechanical or technical issue there for Golda Racina. Preston home in second was able to fend off the drivers behind. Pablo Vicente, Inio Bayer, Rob Bowden rounded out the top 5 of their battle into the final corner. Derek Izza, Jota Perez, and Ashley Ruskin home in 6th, 7th, and 8th.
There we go. Kaneko in 9th position. 6 spots down from his starting spot after starting in 3rd with a very, very good qualifying run. Unfortunate throughout the race. Mitch McLeod finishes in 10th position. You'll be happy with that after no practice. Ruben Martin in 11th. Matt Morris, disappointing end for him to finish in 12th. Deserved a lot better than that. Alex Court was in that fight we saw in the mid-race with Tanico and McLeod finishing 13th, with Rafa Serna in 14th. Daniel Polina and Josh Perwin rounding out our top 16, then over the page to Godracina, who finishes 1 lap down in the end with those incidents. We're not sure exactly what went on, but we'll try and find out for next week. Then we've got Trugarth and Barnes, who did finish the race, but unfortunately a few laps down.
Well, Jay, that was quite the race we just saw. We talked about pre-race how important the draft was going to be. It so often is here at Monza. And in fact, how that rang true was a bit surprising, actually, with some of the incidents that occurred. And some of the racing we saw, though, was fantastic stuff. We almost had an incredible battle for the lead up until the final lap. The unfortunate disappearance of Golda Racina left that one finishing with 11.3 second advantage in favour of Greven. But at the conclusion of 30 minutes, it's once again, as it so often has been, Tim Greven that wins this race. And have you got any lasting or last thoughts for us, Jay, before we wrap this one up?
Draft was such a huge factor in this race here, so looking forward to seeing the next few rounds in this series and seeing how they will play out in this series. Of course, we've got Lime Rock next week, so no draft there. It's just going to be bump car stuff, so looking forward to that. Zandvoort will be interesting, but then we go to Mosport and Phillip Island. The last 2 rounds, once again, draft tracks. So still some interesting mixes to go left in this series. Looking forward to seeing how these last 4 rounds play out.
Going to be great to see for sure, but in terms of the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge, that is us done for tonight, and we look forward to what comes up next for SimSpeed TV, for the iRacing Esports Network. A big weekend for SimSpeed on Saturday evening. For those of you that love the combo of myself and Jay Kennedy, we got a treat for you. We're back in action on Saturday night for the Pacific Major Series, the final round on the iRacing Esports Network.
Sorry, everyone, I'm back.
Yeah, we apologise for this combination seeming to happen every single week, Jay. And so that's back on the iRacing Esports Network. The International Region wraps up its championship. Then on Sunday, V8 Scops returns at Silverstone for some more fantastic action. That's going to be a great one. So make sure you tune in to both those races. Drop us a like if you haven't already. Make sure you hit that subscribe button for SimSpeed TV. Go ahead and subscribe to the iRacing Esports Network while you're at it as well. And from myself, Ryan Jones, and from Jay Kennedy alongside me, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching what was a fantastic race, and we'll catch you next time.
This is fantastic.
fantastic. This is GT racing right now. He's got traction, he's going in the outside of both of them. Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top
Oh
now.
my god! Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no, that's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my god.
God, what?